Well, north of Aleppo, people in the opposition-held town of Azaz gathered to protest against the siege of the opposition stronghold. Residents rallied with speeches and music. Speakers called on opposition forces to unite in their fight against the blockade. Well, Krista Armstrong is a spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross. She joins us now live from Geneva to discuss all of this. Krista, thank you very much for your time. Let's start by talking about the situation in Aleppo then. And what are you hearing about the situation there right now?
I mean, at this juncture, we can't confirm the reports. We're aware of them, and our teams are on the ground. We keep reminding the key principles regarding humanitarian corridors, because while anything that can bring respite to the civilians who are affected on all sides of the city and in rural areas can be a positive thing, it has to happen under certain conditions. It can't be, it has to be both sides, and all sides have to agree for these evacuations to happen, for them to happen safely. People also have a choice, and it doesn't mean that for whatever reason, if they decide to stay, that they are still protected, and we need to be able to reach them. So humanitarian agencies such as the International Committee of the Red Cross are urgently requesting to get access to eastern Aleppo and to other areas to deliver assistance and assess people's needs, particularly those of the most vulnerable, including families and children, including detainees, including the sick and injured, so we can, provide some relief as well directly.
Do you know how close the regime are to possibly recapturing the city, and has life deteriorated there in recent weeks and months?
I cannot comment on sort of strategic developments. What we do know and what we have seen, and our head of delegation has been there for the past few weeks as well with our team, is that the violence and the fighting this past few weeks have been very intense. There has been indiscriminate fighting on both sides. Civilian infrastructure has been hit. So we've seen hospitals, we've seen ambulance centers, we've seen homes, civilian homes hit on both sides. So that has been particularly alarming. We've been visiting patients, for instance, in hospital who suffered burns because the gas exploded in their kitchen, for instance. We've seen children who've been injured. So the violence has been very intense, including not just in Aleppo city, but around the city. So we're particularly concerned as well about the water situation and the sanitation, as well as the healthcare in areas such as eastern Aleppo. And that's why we also need some kind of humanitarian pause and on a daily basis so that we can get there and assess people's needs. And that's what we were calling for.
And what do people there need most?
People need, the healthcare situation in particular, I think, is concerning, because you have, on the one hand, you have some hospitals or healthcare centres that have been hit and damaged, and so you've had people who are no longer able to find a healthcare centre. You have ambulances that maybe have to bring patients and have to travel greater distances on routes that are not safe. So at the rate as well of, with the rising number of injured, it's important to ensure that the stocks, medical stocks, could run out at a much faster rate. So that's very important. And we've also seen, for instance, hospitals that we visited that are just simply overwhelmed, because while some are basically, are struggling, are no longer able to function, there's others that are struggling to cope with the influx of patients and to having to make, tough decisions about the patients they treat. Amidst the situation, you have patients such as, who have chronic diseases, and it's going to be much harder. So let's look at dialysis patients. It's going to be much harder, much more difficult for them to get the care that they need. So the healthcare repercussions can be huge.
Okay.
And it's also.
Okay, Krista, thank you very much. Krista Armstrong, a spokesperson for the ICRC. Thank you.